Good morning, this is Martin from Auto Bay Direct in Southport. I'm shooting this video today to show you this delightful example of BMW's X5. This is a 30D MSPORT version of the vehicle, finished in a very attractive black. This vehicle, registered first in 2015, has covered a mere 18,400 miles and is in absolutely stunning condition. Look at that luster on the paintwork. You can see how many of our other cars are reflecting in the paintwork. Beautiful polish and finish to that paintwork. I'm just going to move down, however, first of all to the driver's side front wheel, just to show you that this has been so well cared for. There's no curb damage at all to any of the wheels here. There's a tremendous amount of tread left on the front tyres. They appear to be almost new, certainly lots of life left in those. Moving along the side of the vehicle, again, no scratches or scrapes to the paintwork, just as you would expect for such a low mileage example. I'll look at this rear wheel on the driver's side. Again, no curbing, no scrapes there. Somebody's obviously been driving this vehicle very carefully. Rear wheel also has a tremendous amount of tread on the tyre. These, of course, being run flat tyres, they are Bridgestones by brand, which is certainly exceptional for the car, as you would anticipate. No cheap tyres, of course. The vehicle also benefits from having an electrically operated tailgate, which can be simply by pressing the button on the key. It will activate the tailgate and open it for you. We'll just glance inside the boot for a moment. You can see nice and clean in here. No stains to the carpets. It's again had very light use. Load cover in place, of course, and split folding rear seats. We'll come to the interior in a moment. I just want to show you that there is a button, of course, at the top here, which you can press in order to close the tailgate. This is also a stage tailgate, so we have a release catch here to lower the front flap to gain wider access. So I'll just press this button here, down goes the tailgate, and locks and secures itself. Just moving around to the passenger side of the vehicle. Again, I'm just struck by how well cared for this vehicle is. No scratches here. Again, that beautiful luster. You can see the reflection of one or two of our other cars in the paintwork here. I'm just going to focus on this rear wheel on the passenger side, just to show you once again, no curb damage, no scuffs or scrapes there, and again, lots of tread left on that rear tyre, as you would expect for such a low mileage variant of this car. I must say, I think black is one of the most attractive colours for the X5. It's been a very popular car for BMW, but certainly this is still the most striking colour, and in my experience, one of the most sought after. Just going to come down to the driver's side front wheel just to show you again, no curb damage there. You can see the brake discs are very, very light wear there. There's no lip at all to those. They're just in excellent condition. And of course, once again, plenty of tread left on those tyres. Shorn with run flats once again. Pirelli P0s at the front, and of course they're staggered tyres. They're much wider at the rear, hence the reason that they use the Bridgestones. The X-Drive 30D badge, and of course the all-important MSPORT badge present there. You can see those wheel arch extensions, very subtle, but really give terrific presence to the vehicle. Of course, front fog lamps present, and you can see the parking sensor located just below in that front grille. Those lights, very attractive lights with those LED day running functionality as well. And that gloss black grille, making a real statement about the vehicle. So you can see from the exterior, this is really beautifully kept. And I'm just going to step into the interior of the car and just show you some of the features inside. Before I do that, I just wanted to make a point and just to accentuate the fact that there's been very little wear on this vehicle. Look at the driver's seat. Very little wear there, no scuffing or scratching to the leather, particularly on this bolster here, which is where most wear occurs, especially with sport seats. But the leather is in superb condition. Passenger seat, very much the same. Again, no scratches or scuffs to that leather. The rear seats look as if they've barely been sat in. Again, been wonderfully cared for. So I'm just going to step into the vehicle now and run through some of the features inside. So welcome to the cabin of the X5. This is a very comfortable place to be. These seats are extremely supportive. They're both electrically operated, of course, and the driver's seat has a 3-position memory. I'm just going to glance across to the door. You can see we have the window controls there, along with controls for the wing mirrors. There is also a boot release, which is very useful if you're present inside the vehicle and you want to allow somebody on the outside access to the boot. You can operate the motorized function from there. Lighting, automatic headlamps present, of course, front and rear fog lamps. There's also a rheostat to adjust the illumination of the dashboard instrumentation. Steering wheel controls allow you to access media as well as telephone functions. You also have your cruise control on the left hand side here, and behind the steering wheel you can see there are the paddles to control the gear shifting manually if you so wish. These will override the auto transmission, of course, or you can select the manual functionality for use of those for a more prolonged period. Very clear instrument dials. And you can see just on this side there is the start button. Now you just need to have the vehicle keys, of which I should point out, of course, there are 2, present inside the vehicle. And then simply by depressing the start button, you can start the vehicle. I shall just turn the radio down for a moment. And I will come to the information display in a second. But you can see here that we have a function here to show various parts of information, whether it be audio system or navigation detail, trip computer information, and no warning lamps, of course. You wouldn't be expected, other than the one to say that I haven't got my seatbelt on, of course. And as I glance across here, you'll see that this is the professional navigation, the very much wider screen navigation system, which is controlled by BMW's iconic iDrive, this dial functionality here. So you would simply turn this dial here in order to manipulate the menus, and you can see that we have multimedia functions here, which allow us access to CD and also DVD functionality. You also have a hard disk built into the vehicle so that you can store music. You have access to external devices, either by Bluetooth or by USB connectivity, and you have the ability to adjust the sound settings accordingly. Bass, treble, fade and the like. Radio functionality, of course, you would, as you would expect, have DAB digital radio along with the conventional AM and FM functionalities. You can store various stations, and of course, as you can see here, this gives us information with the DAB digital radio as to the programming you're listening to. This also provides additional functionality for any media that you're streaming by way of track information, both from CD or from external devices. Just coming back out of the radio menu, we have telephone functionality. We don't have a phone currently paired up to the vehicle, but by Bluetooth you can connect your devices wirelessly, and of course have access to both your phone book as well as your call logs. And you therefore get caller identification when receiving calls, enabling you to screen those people that you wish to speak to whilst on your journey. Moving next along to navigation, this being the Pro navigation system, does offer tremendous visibility, very clear mapping. We can zoom out or zoom in at will. This is simply a bird's eye view that we have at the moment. But as you would anticipate, we have the ability also to change that view, and if we wish we can take a perspective view, which is often something which is found quite popular nowadays, an almost 3D view of your surroundings. And once again, of course, we still have the ability, once in that mapping, to scroll in and out and zoom accordingly. Points of interest are present if you wish to find car parks, fuel stations, restaurants, various other facilities, emergency services such as hospitals, for example. Of course, you can store recent destinations and also input either by address, coordinates, or alternatively by postal code. Just coming out of the navigation, contacts of course gives you information about anybody that is stored on your media devices that you have connected. Connected Drive gives you access to various apps and functions direct with BMW UK, and there are additional items you can access. You will require a data connection from your connected media device in order to access that. Vehicle information. This is a very important aspect, of course. It gives us not just specific information about the vehicle, but also a reference guide by way of owner's handbook, which we can see is present in the list here. So you can actually search through here if there's something that you're uncertain about with regards to the functionality of the vehicle, without having to search through a book. The vehicle status tells us about tyre pressures, for example, but equally we can get information about the service requirements of the vehicle, what the car reports to us requires attention. We can see here, if I just scroll back to service history, that the vehicle has been serviced in March of 2017. As we can see on here, it states the mileage there for 12,928 miles when that service was carried out, and that's obviously been undertaken at a BMW main dealer. It also reports us information such as when the engine oil will next require replacement, which is in 6,000 miles in this instance. When the next vehicle check is required, that similarly is in 6,000 miles. We then also have front brake pad wear indicators, 8,000 miles approximately to its next brake pads, a brake fluid change not required until February 2020, and also rear pads not due in this instance until another 9,000 miles approximately has elapsed. You can of course look more closely at this information. Selecting engine oil, for example, will tell us that the next service is due in March of 2019 or in 6,000 miles, and this car of course bears a service plan, a BMW service package, which runs through until April 2020. So that means you can present it to your local BMW main dealer. They will service it for you up until April of 2020 at no cost to yourself. Just coming out of the service information finally, and you can see also that we have sport displays. So if you wish to change the parameters, you can show the torque or power of the vehicle whilst driving, and they're configurable to your preferences. The X-Drive status tells us about our position, our altitude, and also our direction. So if you are taking any off-road driving, it's very useful to gauge how the vehicle is sitting. So a great deal of functionality present within the multimedia device. You can see here there is a button just below the hazard warning lights, which at the moment is glowing orange, and this is to do with collision protection. By pressing this, it activates our intelligent safety system. Now this allows you to have the vehicle monitor any potential front end collisions whilst driving, and it will automatically intervene and apply braking pressure when required. Also, in addition to this, further functionality extends to pedestrian alerts. So if somebody should dart out in front of the vehicle, it would recognise that and actually again warn you, as well as applying brake intervention where necessary. And also there's a lane departure warning system, which if you're travelling on the motorway, it will warn you if you start to deviate out of your lane through lack of concentration, or if you were unaware. So terrific aids to safety. These can be enabled or disabled at will simply by pressing that button. We have below here the climate control system. You can see that driver and passenger have individual temperature controls. So with an automatic function, you can simply select your preferred temperature, press the automatic, and it will run the fans and thermostatically maintain that temperature for you. You can manually control the fans simply by increasing or decreasing the fan speed, and this is once again independent for both driver and passenger, something that's quite a rare option. Quite typically the temperature may be adjusted but not the fan speed, but in this instance you maintain individual control. You also have heated seats, both for driver and for front passenger, present on the opposite side. And of course you can synchronise the temperatures on either side to save you having to do both if you're travelling alone. Below we have a control for the CD and DVD functionality, along with preset buttons there. We do have a concealed area here which holds cup holders and of course a further 12-volt charging socket. And moving rearwards we have the gear shift, which allow the camera to refocus, and this gives us both the park functionality along with reverse, neutral and drive. We also have our sport functionality so that we can determine the driving dynamic of the car, whether you wish it to remain comfortable and more gentle in its driving dynamic, or if you want it to take on a little more urgency. Of course, when we engage reverse gear, our parking sensors will come active. However, we can press them on demand by simply pressing this button. This then also gives us a visual indication of the vehicle and any objects that are either in front or behind it. This operates automatically whenever you approach an object at very close proximity at the front, or when you engage reverse gear, and it will remain on then until you exceed 15 miles per hour. You can of course then switch off that on demand if you prefer. You can see that the electronic handbrake is present, and there's also an auto hold function just below, which is particularly useful for hill starts. We have some storage beneath the armrest here, and this also accommodates an auxiliary input socket as well as an USB connection. Very useful for those modern media devices, of course. Just moving across to the passenger side again, you can see that window controls and also locking functionality is present. So if a passenger is left in the vehicle on their own, they can control the locking simply from their own door without having to stretch over and using the driver's controls. Above us we have controls for the sunroof, and if I operate this button here, we can see that the visor will retract. Goes the full length of the vehicle, flooding the cabin with sunlight. And this is further then enhanced by being able to open the sunroof itself. The wind deflector deploys. The window will open 3/4 of the way first, and you can open it then further by a further press of the button. Very nice, especially on a day like today. Just close this over again. There are also overhead lighting functions there, of course. Just whilst we're here, I'll just point out the fact you can see that we have an auto-dimming mirror. There is a sensor in the upper part of the mirror which will dim the face of the mirror to prevent you from being dazzled by drivers behind you with particularly bright lights. So, the tinted glass of course gives great privacy to rear seat occupants, and also from a security perspective helps to hide any objects of value you might have inside the vehicle, and of course you have a glove compartment present also. Right, I'm going to step outside the vehicle once more and just give a brief resume, and then we will close. So finally, just to summarise, this very attractive, extremely low mileage BMW X5 30D MSPORT is currently available with us here at Auto Bay Direct in Southport. I don't envisage this car will last very long at all. It is a quite exceptional example. If you should have any further queries or questions, please feel free to contact us directly on 01704 551 999 or at autobaydirect@gmail.com. Thank you for watching.